liver stew is like similar to like a goulash. And the hot dogs have fat in them, but I'm gonna start by sauteing the hot dogs because it's just gonna carry flavor. If you don't have a lot of ingredients, you've got to maximize the flavor with each ingredient. And so if we get some color on these hot dogs, caramelization, flavor, this already looks good. Water's boiling. Salt was and still is cheap, thankfully. But you didn't find a lot of like other condiments or spices. You still can find pasta for $1 though. Just gonna cook the whole pound because we're making this for an army. So now we've built all this flavor at the bottom of our pot, and I'm gonna go in with the tomatoes first because it's gonna lift up that flavor from the pan. See, just like that, that pot is clean. Dried herbs were and still are pretty inexpensive also, so you can go into your pantry and flavor this up however you like. My way, I'd probably add in something like Cajun seasoning, maybe like some fresh herbs, parsley, something like that, but I'm gonna kind of stick to the old school way for the most part. And then beans. When I did my episode on dirt cheap dinners, I also told you that beans are a great way to kind of stretch a meal, and because they're really substantial, they fill you up for definitely not a lot of money, but they also have added fiber and protein. All right, and then a can of corn. My grandmother grew up during this time, and she, for her whole life, cooked like this. All of these recipes, because of the minimal ingredients and lack of complicated cooking processes, are going to be really fast. So besides being cheap dinners you can incorporate into your weekly routine, they're going to be like fast 30-minute meals you can also. And I'm saving for some sweet endings. Okay, we've got like a couple blow your mind desserts. Drain it and add it in. See? That is a full pot. So I would cook this for like a few more minutes together just to bring those flavors in. And that pasta quickly absorbs all that liquid that was in there. If I was doing this at home, I'm very tempted to add in some butter, although butter wasn't super cheap back then. Even a little like Parmesan cheese. But it definitely needs a little salt and pepper, and that's what we're gonna do. And now I feel like I'm gonna add the rest of those tomatoes. Now we're looking more like a stew. Now let's dish it up. Listen, this is a comfort meal, and I can already tell you my kids would eat this. They might look at me a little funny. They will eat it and they will like it. Simplicity. Definitely a good move to saute the hot dogs before adding everything in. I mean, it's comfort food. It's kind of like eating a warm hug. If you've got money in the bank, you could take this and zhuzh it up with like some, sausage and more veggies, fresh veggies if you want. But otherwise, if you're waiting on the next payday, give this one a try. This next meal is known as Poor Man's Meal. This one came from Miss Clara on YouTube and her depression cooking. If you've never seen her videos, they are just so sweet. You just feel like you were at home and she is your great-grandmother. Another meal made with hot dogs. However, this one also has potatoes and onions. She's who I saw like cut the hot dogs really thin. I mean, my grandmother used to put hot dogs in scrambled eggs. I have made that video before, you should go check it out. But so she peeled the potato. Also, I'm doing it like they do. Okay, this is how every grandmother cooked. She said they didn't have things like cutting boards. So they just cut everything in their hands like this. I feel like she kind of cut her potatoes kind of like smallish. This kind of hurts your wrist. It's starting to make a little sense. Or maybe I need this kind of exercise with my hands. I don't know. I don't know if I should stop or keep going. You get the point. All right, and then onion. And I put onion in everything. Now we just fry it all up together for the ultimate poor man's meal. She starts with a little oil, the onion, and the potato. Just gonna cook this down like this until the potatoes soften, and then we'll add on the hot dogs. So I'm sort of burning. These potatoes want to stick a little bit. That's okay, because what did we just do right here? Make a little flavor. So I'm gonna add a little water to just lift that up and then kind of steam the potatoes to cook them. The best time to get flavor into your starches, whether it be potatoes or pasta, is while it's cooking, because it needs to absorb in. If you just wait and season at the end, the salt just sits on the surface. All right, the water's evaporated out. Now I'm gonna add in the hot dogs. Okay, once all this is heated through and cooked, we're done. I just remembered. She added just a couple little spoonfuls of marinara sauce. I just have some leftover pizza sauce in the fridge, so this is what I'll use, because we're resourceful. I guess that's a good way to incorporate some extra flavor. Let's dish it up. So it's like one of those meals I feel like that you would make like if you're sick or you just like want something comforting, which I think was the goal of all these depression meals. I love like the way like the starch from the potatoes has cooked down and it's kind of made it like kind of creamy. I love this. That hot dog has just like lent like the perfect salty, like savory note to this. The potato is creamy and those onions are just kind of like melted down. That little hint of tomato sauce at the end brings it all together. I mean, look at the amount of food in here. And that was 3 hot dogs and 2 potatoes and 1 onion. Do the math on that, but per serving, was that like $2 or something? I'm really grateful for Clara's recipe. This next one is a childhood favorite of mine that my mom used to make all the time. I'm beginning to think maybe we were financially strained and I didn't know it. I'm making classic egg drop soup. You know, you don't think about this one because you just have it like if you go to a Chinese restaurant, why not make it at home? I'm just gonna start out by chopping a little bit of green onion. Back then, people would have not wasted anything. So if they cooked a chicken, they had their own broth. If you make your own stock and you always have eggs on hand, this meal is basically free. Some ground ginger. Ginger is super inexpensive, so you could do fresh here as well, but the potency of the ground ginger, a little bit goes a long way. And a little salt, and that's our broth. Before I heat up the broth, you want to start with it cold. I'm going to take a little bit out and whisk it with a little cornstarch. This is going to help thicken the soup later. You always want to dissolve cornstarch in colder water, colder liquid. If you add it to hot liquid, it just clumps up. This can be heating up. And then egg drop soup, you gotta have eggs. Okay, so I'm just gonna whisk together some eggs and egg yolks. If you add egg yolks a little bit separately, it kind of makes the soup a little bit richer. Our flavorful broth is going, and now I'm gonna whisk in our little slurry here. So you want this to be back up at a boil because you want that water to be circulating, so when you drizzle in the egg, it immediately cooks and kind of forms little ribbons in there. I was actually supposed to put the cornstarch in after the eggs, but I think it's all gonna be fine. Let that cook for just a couple minutes. I'm gonna stir in the green onions. The eggs cook immediately when they hit the boiling broth. So basically it's done at this point. Let's serve it up. Can y'all believe how easy that was and how few ingredients? I mean, it looks just like the restaurant kind. That's the bite. This is a depression dinner that's making me very happy. Those eggs are just like noodles. If you've never had this, it doesn't taste eggy at all. That broth is so flavorful. This will also probably cure any cold, so remember this in cold and flu season. Yes, they did eat fresh meat back in the Depression, but you've got to know how to make it stretch. The recipe I found is actually called potato pancakes, but they're stuffed with ground beef, and this is the ultimate recipe to stretch the ground beef. The whole recipe just calls for a ½ a pound grated onion, so we're making almost like a little meatball mixture to go inside. And then a little bit of garlic, egg, salt and pepper. Mix that up and then add in a little breadcrumbs. Obviously, you would have used your